So why are markets dropping? What's going on, team? It's Ricky with TechBit Solutions here on Tuesday, January 9th, giving you guys a quick pre-market update. Let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. The NASDAQ market is down 0.77%, giving back partially of what it gained yesterday after a really strong rally. When it comes down to the economic reports, the trade balance report that was released 1 hour before the market opens came in at negative 63.2 billion, which is a little bit less than what was the expectation of negative 64.7 billion. Also, the small business optimism report came in at 91.9 when the previous or prior came in at 90.6. Now, again, I wanted to point out some things that were highlighted in the Wall Street Journal. So this week, there is a flurry of mergers. It says Juniper Networks stock surged on Tuesday after this report came out in closing of a $13 billion takeover. One thing that is also really important to note is we were talking about this yesterday during our live trading session, and it's Boeing stock. A lot of you guys must have heard that the catastrophe of the 737 MAX 9 flight. If you guys haven't seen this, there was an unfortunate incident that happened over the week where a Boeing plane was involved and it caught fire, right? I think it was in Japan, correct me if I'm wrong, but this caused Boeing stock to sell off, and it looks like it's kind of flattening out, right? So it sold off 8% yesterday. It's kind of holding its ground now, right? It's very unfortunate news, but the question you have to ask yourself, again, all emotions aside, is this the end of Boeing, or is this just an overreaction on the downside that it will recover from, right? Because when looking at this, if something drops 8 or 10%, that's potential for recovery if this isn't detrimental to the company and it ends up returning to its previous direction, and that was extremely bullish, right? We can see from current lows to previous highs, which again, it can continue to sell off, but I think it's just an important thing to talk about is if it does recover to previous highs that it was just at about 2 weeks ago, it offers a 17.3% return. I know that I've added Boeing stock to my watch list now, not because I need to buy it now, but if it does begin to indicate signs of an uptrend, then I would love to entertain the idea of a potential swing trade if my criteria is met. And there I go, setting my secondary alert if it breaks above the EMA, right? Just because it sells off or just because it dips doesn't mean that that makes it a good stock to buy. Is it indicating signs of a recovery? And that's the question that I'm asking myself. So it says futures of the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 all edge down. This might be because of the economic reports that were released that might have just furthered that sell-off for the overall NASDAQ market. So if we look at QQQ, again, looking at this on the 1 minute time frame, we are seeing a lot of sell-in pressure. Right when those economic reports came out, that should have been at 8:30 for that trade balance report, we saw even a little bit more of a sell-off. And now we're beginning to show signs of a support. The thing that I want to remind you is on this 4-hour time frame, we are testing the EMA. So again, are we going to sell off and get that confirmation, or are we going to hold here and begin to bounce back? We are at a critical range where the next few days will really determine, are we going to begin to rally or sell off? Because on Thursday, we have the CPI data report, also known as the inflation report, and that will determine, right, if we see a rate cut sooner than later. If this inflation report comes in much higher than what was expected, then there should be no reason on why we could justify a rate cut earlier within 2024. But if this inflation report comes in way better than what is expected, then yes, the Federal Reserve can most likely justify a rate cut sooner than later. Again, something very interesting to follow up with. So it also highlighted a couple other things where oil prices gained nearly 2%. Yields on the 10-year Treasury note held broadly steady. So again, not much movement there. But the big thing is that earnings season is kicking off this week with the JP Morgan, Chase, and Bank of America set to report earnings on Friday, which means next week we should have a few tech companies reporting earnings, as well as U.S. inflation report, just like we said on Thursday and on Friday for the CPI data report and the PPI data report. So I'm getting ready to go live with my LPP team for our live trading session. This is where they get to get an inside look and see every entry, every exit, every trade, good and bad, that I take during this live session. I do it for about 30 minutes to an hour, sometimes even an hour and a half every morning right at market open. So if you're an absolute beginner and you want to tune on in, it's the second link in the description down below, and I'll see you right at market open, because that's exactly when it is that I go live. I hope that it earned your thumbs up. Please consider subscribing, and like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.